Welcome to Elevate, the podcast that inspires you to reach new heights. Each episode brings you motivating conversations and transformative insights that empower you to level up. Whether you're seeking guidance or a burst of inspiration, you're in the right place. Let's elevate your life. Let's elevate your future. Starting now. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm the host for today, Kyle Goodnight. And before we get into our guest, who is J. Robert Parker, correct?
Correct.
That's the best way to say it, right there on the screen. I want to talk to you about just making sure that if you know of anybody that hears our podcast that needs to hear our messages, go ahead and share that with them. Of course, we would love for you to like and subscribe and do all that good stuff and forward it to your friends and talk about it on social media, just to get the Elevate podcast out there to actually start getting some traction and get some people to come in and understand what the Elevate podcast is all about. So today, like I said, we are going to be talking with J. Robert Parker. He has a book out called All in Your Head. It's down there at the bottom. He's also he is a hypnotherapist and an ex emergency medical technician like myself. So we'll probably talk a little bit of shop there. But Robert, want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your world and everything about hypnotherapy. Got a lot of questions.
just a little bit of everything, right? Well, thank you for having me on, first of all. As you said, my name is J. Robert Parker. I am the director of an organization called Twin Ravens Solutions, formerly Twin Ravens Hypnotherapy. And as you said, I am a hypnotherapist. As to what that means exactly is slightly more complicated than a simple introduction. But I had to explain to my kids, I have 8-year-old twins, what I did. Because, of course, they asked me, Dad, what do you do? Because they learned what a job was. And so I had to figure out how to explain hypnotherapy to an 8-year-old. And what I told them is, I use the part of you that dreams to help make change happen. And that is kind of the most basic description of what I do.
That's a great description. Never heard of it said that way.
Yeah. Well, never heard it explained to an 8-year-old before. I'm a big proponent of something called the Feynman learning method, which means that until you can explain something free of jargon to a child, you don't really understand it. That even the most complex topics, once fully understood, once fully comprehended, can simply just be explained to a child. And it's true. So you have different minds, I guess it would be. You have your conscious mind, which is very little of what's going on in your brain. It's only about 10 to 20%. And that's what's here right now. It's what's listening to this mostly. And all that is that's your willpower, your decision-making, things like that, active things. And then underneath that, and that 80 to 90% that's left over is the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind does a lot of things. It regulates heart rate, skin temperature, all of those hundreds, if not thousands of things that are going on inside your body that you are completely unaware of. Your subconscious is aware of them because somebody's got to be in control of that. And it's also in control of memory, emotion, and association, which is ultimately what I deal with, because everything in life is association or learned behavior. This thing goes with this, etc., etc. It's part of being human. And normally in day-to-day life, there is something between those two minds called the critical filter that prevents, most times, the subconscious mind from interacting with the conscious mind and vice versa. And what hypnosis does is removes that filter and allows the subconscious mind to be directly spoken to for its associations to be directly altered. And it's one of the things I like to stress, first of all, before anything, is that hypnosis and hypnotherapy is not at its base metaphysical. There is nothing fringe about it. This is, again, at its base, science. And I say at its base because while I'm very secular and very science-based in my practice, you might encounter other hypnotherapists who might not be. We take a more metaphysical approach. And those people, in my opinion, those are fine because somebody needs that. Somebody needs that person, their viewpoint, what they're putting out to be able to heal. Because one of the big vital ingredients to hypnotherapy is connection. The subconscious has to view somebody as an authority. And that doesn't mean like authority figure. That just means to the subconscious mind, this person that they're speaking to is somebody with trustworthy information. It is somebody that can be listened to and accepted.
Somebody they can trust, right?
Exactly, because that's the primary ingredient.
Allow myself to introduce myself, right? No.
Yeah, basically. But if somebody doesn't trust you, like on a conscious or subconscious level, you can't help them. They're not going to accept anything that you say because it's always under scrutiny. Because ultimately, the thing that I want to really stress to people is that hypnosis is ultimately just advanced communication. And think about when you're communicating with somebody that you like, that you feel that connection with. The communication goes easier. You are impacted by what they say more. And that's because of the subconscious engagement in that. So whatever somebody needs to find that connection, that's fine. That's why you'll encounter many, 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 many flavors of hypnotherapists. So.
Right. And that's one thing that I want to make sure we clear up with this, because, my first encounter with a hypnotherapist, with a hypnotic person or a hypnotist or whatever you want to call them, was in a stage presence. It was in college, and it was a big auditorium, and the hypnotist was up on stage, and he asked people to come up, and he tried to get people. I was one of the people that got up on stage, but I was unable to go down under for whatever reason. So he tapped me on the shoulder, and we talked about this in our introductory call about having ADHD, and we'll get to that later, but if that's a factor in it. But the main thing is I want to make sure our listeners do, if you can clear this up, the difference between the stage show and then someone like yourself who's doing it to help people level up, if you will, or, elevate themselves, whether it be coping out of a problem or healing themselves in some sorts mentally, physically, just real quick on that. Can you just dive in a little bit about the two differences for our listeners so they know that, the difference
Absolutely.
and that they can decipher the next time they get asked to go to a hypnotist?
So, full disclosure, I hate stage hypnotism with a passion. So the reason for that, I wasn't like touched by a stage hypnotist or anything like that. And to me, as a clinical hypnotherapist, hypnosis is a very, very, very powerful tool. And to me, stage hypnosis is a bit like dragging an MRI up on stage and taking its cover off so the audience can ooh and ah at the way that the magnet spins. It's kind of the same thing. You are taking a very powerful healing tool and putting it up on stage and making a mockery of it for entertainment. And I would be annoyed at it were it just that. But the thing is, I cannot tell you how many people I have interacted with in my career who have seen stage hypnosis and have been frightened away from the concept of hypnosis by it. Because the things that you see on stage are generally pretty profoundly embarrassing. And there's
correct, to make everybody laugh, to make it a
yeah,
show,
of
right?
course. And there is a certain type of person, myself included, who does not. That's not cool. There's some people
Nah,
you
not cool.
cannot like take up on stage.
Even both of us
And
coming from the EMS world
yeah,
and that environment, I'm not a big fan of being picked on.
uh-uh, and then if you think about it, that experience, because everyone sees the stage hypnotist. Yeah, it's fun and it's funny, but why would a person that sees that ever use that tool to try to help them? And so it provides a very skewed view of it. And a lot of times stage hypnotism is real hypnosis. Most of the art of stage hypnosis comes from being able to pick out highly suggestible people from a crowd. Because hypnotic suggestibility is a sliding scale. Some people are not very hypnotically suggestible. Some people are immensely so. And there are methods and techniques to pick those people out of an audience. And
Gotcha.
so on the other side of that, you have clinical hypnotherapists. We use that same concept of hypnosis and suggestibility to create a change rather than use it for entertainment. Because hypnosis ultimately is the power of influence taken to an extreme. It is physiological influence, because hypnosis isn't just a mental state. Hypnosis is an observable physiological state. Your skin does different things. Your heart rate, your brainwave patterns change. It is an observable reaction. So, and that's why I say this is based in science partially, other than, studies and things like that, because I could demonstrate hypnosis. I could hook you up to galvanic skin response systems, to EEGs, EKGs.
So scientific like data. So you can
actual
you can do
reproducible
data and you can see the difference in the brain and okay.
During my training,
Yeah.
I was shown somebody hooked up to this and was seen on a brainwave and heart beat monitor what it looks like to go into trance, and what it looks like when a suggestion is accepted, and what it looks like when a suggestion is rejected, because there are different responses that can be observed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm sure just like any, sympathetic and parasympathetic reactions of things, the tones go off when we get a run, for EMS, your heart rate jumps, you get that feeling in your stomach, you get sweaty instantly. And that makes sense that you can judge all that. Yeah.
That's association. That is a good example of something that we call an anchor, that's sometimes called a trigger or a post-hypnotic suggestion. Anyone that's worked EMS, that tone does something physical to you. It is more than just, it's time to get up. There are physical feelings, there are thoughts, there's a change that happens when that tone rings. And that is a very, very clear, very powerful example of an association. And that is what I deal with, because not all of those are good. Many times, ideally, yes, we have nothing but good associations. But also, in the same way that the tone brings back memories, many EMTs have other associations. I found, because I work with EMS a lot, and oftentimes it's the smell of something burning that will trigger something.
Yeah.
Or cooking, or the sound of something that takes you back to a moment you didn't want to go back to. And that is an example of when an association becomes something that needs to be addressed.
Right. Well, actually, it's a really good segue into a question I had later
Mhm.
on, but and we can talk about it now because it's a perfect setup for it. Thank you.
Mhm.
So my listeners know that I'm a paramedic, and now
Mhm.
they know that you have been in the EMT world as well prior to
Mhm.
becoming a hypnotherapist. So when it comes to so I did have a traumatic incident that added up over time, of course, and then got another, what I call a PTSI, an injury or an incident that all of a sudden I started feeling a little wonky, right?
Mhm.
I was aware of it enough that I reached out for help. I reached out to our mental health advisor of our department, which we have a
Mhm.
wonderful mental health program
Good.
within my EMS system. So I reached out to her. She happened to be our chief, our assistant chief at the time, and we talked about some stuff on the phone. And she was like, "Listen, I'm going to come see you." So she came to my house on my day off, and as we were sitting there talking, this is in the middle of COVID, and we're sitting there talking on the back porch because we have to keep our distance or whatever. So, she basically came up with the thought about, she's like, "Hey, listen, I really need you to take the next day off. I need you to do call this number today, get an appointment." And I'm just thinking it was some sort of therapy, normal, therapist, counselor, what have you. No big deal. I've used them before. Not a big deal. Marriage counselors, personal counselors, a mediator, a moderator to just discuss your issues. Right. I think it's smart to have that.
Mhm.
But what they introduced was something called, I believe it was called EDMR. And is that a form
EMDR.
of hypnotherapy?
Uh,
EMDR. Sorry, I apologize. But
EMDR.
it was a couple.
Um. Oh God. Hold on.
Is it a
I have
form
the
of hypnotherapy or?
kind of. I had to see. I had to remind myself what the acronym meant because I brain farted it, and I've got the book right there. It's eye movement desensitization and reprogramming, and kind of
Okay.
a form of hypnosis. It
Okay.
is certainly hypnotic in its practice. While I
Okay.
do not use EMDR in my practice because I cannot, I do use some of the
Oh, it's a
principles
licensure
with it.
thing, huh?
It's a licensure thing. Now,
Okay. Okay.
some of the things involved can still be used, and some of the things involved have always been used in hypnotherapy. And EMDR,
Left brain, right brain stuff.
yeah, it's just the rapid switching allows for the reassessment and reprogramming of traumatic memories. And that is very similar to uh, techniques that hypnotherapists have always used to help overcome and resolve traumatic memory. Um, Not to get too far into uh, specialized information, but there is a gentleman named Ernst Rossi who, um, well before Dr. Shapiro came out with EMDR, he had something called mirroring hands that did a much similar thing,
Okay.
that did the whole rapid switching that allowed for reassessment of whatever it may be. Because the big thing that uh, a hypnotherapist or really an EMDR practitioner even is going to stress to you is you have all the resources that you need to be able to heal in your own mind. And that's part of the reason my
Okay.
book's
So like a
called,
self-help thing.
yeah, kind of, because all help is self-help. Like, I don't have
Okay.
some magic
Yeah,
wand.
because people make decisions to quit something. They make it. They make that
I'm
conscious decision,
I'm not
or
there
they.
with you 24 hours a day, making sure that you
Right.
act a certain way. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. All help is self-help.
Okay.
Because for hypnosis to be anything but self-hypnosis would by nature make it metaphysical. Because anything but that,
Gotcha.
I would have to be waving a magic wand at you. I would have to have a superpower that was making something happen to you. And that's why I say
Right.
hypnosis is simply just advanced communication. Because since there
Between
is
between your conscious and your subconscious. Okay.
uh-huh, and I am just the
Okay.
one facilitating that. And I do that through words.
So
through
you're
communication.
facilitating change within their own conscious, right?
Mhm. Basically. And
And you're the tour guide, if you will.
yeah, essentially, I'm the tour guide. More accurately, I'm the translator, because the subconscious kind
The
of
translator. Oh, that's
yeah,
a great word. Okay.
the subconscious kind of speaks a different language than the conscious mind. The conscious mind speaks the language of words and logic. The subconscious mind does not understand those things. It speaks the language of emotion, of symbol, of metaphor. And everyone's had a dream. You can see very clearly
Right.
in your dreams how your subconscious communicates, and it is very difficult to interpret if you don't know what you're looking for.
Right. And that was going to be another question of mine is, are dreams just our beginning state of hypnosis? And how do our dreams, are our dreams something that we should listen to, like we want to listen to ourself,
yes
our
and no,
deep
yes
selves,
and no.
you know?
So let me explain. So
Right.
hypnosis is not sleep, but you must
Okay.
go into trance to go to sleep. You're actually in hypnosis naturally at bare minimum twice a day. 30 minutes before you go to sleep, 30 minutes after you wake up. You can basically consider
After you wake
trance.
up. Okay.
You can basically consider trance to be like your bedroom door. You have to pass through it to go to sleep. You have to pass back through it to wake up. And it's
Okay.
it is because they're different brainwave patterns. Ultimately,
Right.
Sleep is the delta brainwave pattern. I brain farted that one. And hypnosis is the theta brainwave pattern. So they're different things. And you must go into trance to go to sleep. It is the reason for morning affirmations and nightly journaling and things like that.
Right.
Because you're in trance naturally in those times.
Oh, that's
you are
huge.
high.
Because we talked a lot about it. Right. That's what we talk a lot about in the Elevate group, where we all met originally. There was a big section in that group about journaling and morning mindsets and morning journaling too. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, with that question, with that thought process in mind, I think I just, the other day I was talking with somebody and within the group, and they mentioned something about their kids and screen time. And they, I guess she was concerned about screen time. And I'm like, man, that's a loaded question, because that's a tough one nowadays with today's technology. But can you speak a little bit about screen time in that pre-sleep phase, like why it would be good or bad? Or, I mean, because a lot of research says that you shouldn't have any type of screen time right before you go to bed.
I will say this.
Speak on that for a couple seconds.
Anything that you are exposed to, anything that you think within that window before and after, is a hypnotic suggestion. And so whatever doom scrolling you're doing, you're basically programming your subconscious mind for the day to come. And my
interesting.
big
So if someone were to be watching a YouTube video about destruction or something, or something like that, that's
I wouldn't
entering.
be surprised if they woke
that 30
up in
minutes
a pretty bad
before
mood.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
interesting.
So that's why as much as I like computers and phones and technology, I still, for that period, try to back off of that, because it is a big influence on the subconscious mind. And the flip side to that is being aware of that these periods exist. And a lot of what I do is just a matter of being aware that something is happening. You can use those time periods to give yourself positive suggestion and reinforcement. And everyone can kind of see this at play.
Okay.
Everyone's had a day that they've woken up and they've told themselves, today is going to suck. I have so much to do.
Right.
I'm so overwhelmed. This is going to be awful. How'd that day go? It went pretty bad.
It sucked.
It's just like you told yourself.
It's that what I like to think of it is that Yeah, that movie. I do a lot of movie references at times. So the movie Office Space, when Peter walks up to the door at his work and it shocks him because he was
Mhm.
expecting it to shock him
Yeah.
to be some sort of, he's like,
Yeah.
oh man,
Yeah.
and then that's the day he ended up quitting. And yeah,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's you can do the opposite. And this is kind of like where my whole change in life came from, was realizing that you could do the opposite, that you could actually give yourself support, that you could give yourself encouragement, and that it's not just talking to
Right.
yourself, it's talking to a different part of yourself,
Yeah.
the part of you that perceives. And so it changes the way that
So
day goes
affirmations.
entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's affirmations I
Right.
used to think were just dumb words you told yourself. And I come to realize that affirmations are more than dumb words that you tell yourself. They're words that you tell your subconscious that it takes as instructions. So that's a bit different.
Interesting. So you've just really you really helped me explain my day yesterday.
Mhm.
So just real quick, and then we'll get into some other parts of what I want to ask you. But real quick, I woke up yesterday, and one of the first things I did, of course, I'm 51 years old, and you know what we do at 51, we have to go to the bathroom for a long time. So my phone's in front of me, and I'm just sitting there waiting for everything to be done.
Yep.
So, sorry, TMI, right? But I'm on my phone, and I get a message from someone, and it was not a great message. It was, and I was like, man, this sucks. And so I got up, went to let the dogs out and go to the bathroom. So I'm sitting there watching the dogs out in the yard, and I felt that I was in easily within the first 30 minutes of my awake. I was in the first 5 minutes, right? By the time, because when the dogs get up, it's go time, right? Yeah. They don't like you to pass go or nothing. But so I'm sitting there probably the first 10 minutes of being awake, and I'm thinking, you know what? This kid, I've got a lot of stuff to do today. This could totally derail me. I'm like, but there's something. I know there was something going on prior to that message. Like there was red flags over the last few months about this final message. And it was like, there's going to be a solution to this. I told myself that I'm not going to, and then I was going to go back to sleep because it was early, because they wake me up at like 5:30, but I ended up diving into the solution and a change instead of dwelling, right? And up until there was another message later on in the day that kind of went sideways, everything was great. Everything went smooth. I was comfortable. I went into creation mode. I went into figuring out the problem, how we can take this money that just got canceled and move it over to this other area for flights, and it was pretty interesting, And then of course there was a mid to late day, exchange that ended derailing me a little bit, and I didn't do the same thing until I talked to a few people, and I'm still not feeling great about the situation, but it is what it is, and I'm going to get past it. But that's really interesting that you said that, that first 30 minutes, if I could have, I totally changed the beginning part of my day because of it. And then of course there was another interaction that made it go derail, and I didn't approach it properly. So like in the same day, I had the good interaction, like you're talking about, that you do your self-talk and get yourself away from it. And then I had a more of a negative interaction because there was some words exchanged and not fun stuff.
Well,
but
ultimately, that was out of your control. And that's one of the things that I talk about a lot, is what is within your control, what can actually be controlled.
Right.
And in that moment in the morning, you could control the way you reacted. And that's the big thing. There's a man that I really like his work, named oh my God, Viktor Frankl, who does a lot of writing on meaning and finding your meaning. And one of his big things is, even if every other choice has been taken from you, you could choose your attitude to any given situation. And that sounds like happy, cheery self-help crap, until you learned that Viktor Frankl wrote those words on scraps of paper in a concentration camp. And to me, that always kind of lent his words a little more weight, because if that man can talk about choosing your attitude in any situation, from the darkest place that a human being could ever find themselves in, I can choose the way I feel about something not going right in my life.
Right.
And it really is all about choice. We make choices all the time. And I've had clients tell me, oh, but I didn't have a choice. I mean, you did. You always do.
No,
They're not.
You always have free
They're,
will. Yeah.
they're not good choices. Like even as
Right,
even as an EMT, oh, you have no choice but to save that person, but to try. No, you walk away. You can run your
have
you
fun
can
sleeping
run
that
over
night.
you can run over that person with your ambulance.
That's true.
Like,
it is a choice. It is a choice, right?
It
Right.
is absolutely a choice that you have. They are not good choices. Right. There sometimes is only one good choice to make, but acknowledging that you always have a choice is actually very important, because whenever we are not given any choice, we naturally, on a subconscious level, resist whenever we feel that we are being forced into something. And whenever we are given a choice, even if it's ridiculous, even if it's terrible, even if it comes down to, well, I could help this person or I could run them over, you've still given yourself a choice. And even though there's one very clear choice, your subconscious will actually accept it better. As odd as that is, there's weird little tricks that you can do to your subconscious to allow it to more easily accept things. But you asked before we move on about dreams, and kind of to briefly touch on that, not all of your dreams matter. Not all of your dreams are direct subconscious communication, but there's an easy way to know the ones that are. And those are the ones I'm interested in. So there's different types of dreams. Gotcha. They come in different flavors, and they occur at different times in the sleep pattern. The dreams that are of, for my purposes, we'll say clinical value, are what's called venting dreams. Those are the dreams that occur right before we wake up. The ones we wake up from.
Yeah, that's how I thought all dreams happen. It's like, I've been told over the years that, you don't dream until the last 10 seconds. That whole dream was 10 seconds before you woke up.
You can dream previously in that cycle. You can actually monitor these things. Like if you wear one of those smart watches, you can monitor your REM.
The EEGs or the monitor, right?
So there's different purposes to different dreams. Sometimes it's your subconscious trying to work out a solution with itself, basically just kind of talking to itself. Sometimes it's trying to basically make predictions. Sometimes it's just entertaining itself. But when it's right before,
some dreams I wake up and I'm like, that was fun. I wanted to stay there.
But right before we wake up, those are the ones that are our subconscious trying to resolve problems, trying to resolve things that it believes are an issue. And this does not always come clearly. And as anyone who's dreamed will know.
Yeah.
And my big thing,
because it's hard to remember them too, unless you jump up and write them down,
Oh yeah. And that's kind of one of the things that I encourage is if you want to figure out what your dreams are telling you, you got to be able to remember your dreams, which is something that has to be practiced.
Use your phone for a split second and have a hotkey that gives you recording, and you can talk about it, and then put it down because you don't want screen time in the morning memo.
Well, use a pen and paper.
Yeah, voice memo, right?
Pen and paper, man.
Yeah, pen and paper. Go for that, yeah. Well, what is that, right? I have to remember to bring that to bed. That's the problem. I always remember to bring my phone because it's now my alarm clock.
Well, you just keep it at your bedside table. That's what I do. I have pads and paper everywhere. I've always been the note guy. I'm specifically note guy. I've got them everywhere else in my office.
Fantastic. Well, real quick, we're right about 30 minutes now, and I want to still touch base on your book. Because you've written it pretty recently, right? I'd like you to be able to talk a little bit about your book, and then maybe do that for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I got a couple of questions from your book if we can get to it. If not, it may cover you may cover the questions that I have. So go for it. Talk about all in your head and where people can get it, and or if how it's acquired and what it's all about.
Absolutely. So I think I finished it a couple months ago. And
Oh,
as you said, it is called All in Your Head. And the reason I called it that is because that is the only place we will ever know. All of your perception of reality, of yourself, of other people, of the past, present, and future is all in your head. It will all only ever be in your head. And that is also where the solutions are. And I wrote the book kind of as an explanation of how your subconscious mind influences different things like goal setting, what you see, what you're able to perceive. And each chapter touches on some aspect of the subconscious mind and then gives you an exercise to be able to improve that part of your subconscious mind. So it's an active book. It's not just something you read. It's something you participate in. It's
you
something
interact
that
with. Is there a workbook involved with it, or is it?
it's not a workbook, but there are activities.
Okay.
There are various things that are done. I've thought about making a workbook before, but again, that's more work. there's work into making a workbook, but it's I kind of made it as a primer, as an introduction to living aware of your subconscious mind. Because that's really what I'm all about. That's really what my message is, and what I encourage is living with an awareness of your subconscious mind and its influence on yourself and the world around you and the way you see it. And explaining that in a very clear, easy to understand, scientifically based way. Because if this is a part of being human, if this is something that everyone takes part in, you need to know about it. And
Right.
Personally speaking, when I became aware of my subconscious and acted with that in mind, my life changed. It changed the way that I felt
Okay.
about things, reacted to things. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I am different for what I learned and what I did and everything. And so if I can change, I am a stubborn ass. If I can change, anyone can. So
Oh, we need to get some of these. We need to get some of these hypnotic recordings to my daughter. So I'm just kidding. She's stubborn as hell. I love it though. I
I
love it that she's stubborn. So
and see what's interesting is what changed me. Yes, the hypnosis and the suggestions did, but the knowledge changed me more than anything. Simply knowing what the
knowing,
rules were to the game. Because until you know
gotcha.
what the rules are, you can't play the game.
Yeah,
That's anything.
that's great.
So
Well, real
you can
quick,
get
where
the
can people get that book? And sorry, go
you can
ahead.
get
Yep.
you can get the book at the same place you can get a hold of me, which is from my
Okay.
website, twinravens.org. All of my books are available from there. And you can also buy them on Amazon Books, but I always recommend buying from me because my prices are better. Uh, and don't give Bezos money.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
also on my website, you can watch previous interviews that I've done. You can
Okay.
see more of our services because we don't just offer hypnotherapy anymore. We offer career coaching and more everyday type
Oh,
coaching.
fantastic.
Mhm.
So that's
As
kind of
well
like
as
would fall right in line with our message of elevating. You know, a lot of
absolutely,
people that are in the elevate world, it's about they may be starting a coaching career, and how do they get over some limiting beliefs, or how do they get rid of
absolutely.
procrastration? I mean,
And that's
the one thing that I definitely know that we're going to be talking again more. Like you were going to be on. Like I'm going to make you a staple guest because
all right.
like there we haven't even scratched the surface what you and I talked about for the first hour and a
No,
half, 2 hours when we first met.
yeah.
So we'll have, have Jay Robert on again for sure. But when it comes to that's really good that you said that. I didn't know that you did that. So
Mhm.
that's all in that
Absolutely.
same website that they can get
And I
career
kind of
coaching to.
absolutely, and I stumbled into that. Like I said, I'm formerly Twin Ravens Hypnotherapy, now Twin Ravens Solutions, because I noticed hypnotherapy clients
Perfect.
who I had helped grow were like, "Hey, can you? I'm opening a business. Can you help me with that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's one of the things I'm trained with." So I helped a couple of clients do that naturally, and I was like, why am I not also offering this? So yeah, we do
Right.
more now. The
Well, that's
rebranding
great.
was
Well,
because
that
we
actually
expanded.
that expanded. Well, that actually feeds into our last segment here, which I like to call the elevator pitch. So actually, that's one of the questions that you just kind of described, but I actually just want you to kind of expand on a little bit more. And what we do in the elevator pitch, for those of you that's just now tuning in and hearing Elevate podcast for the first time, elevator pitch is those quick hitters, quick questions, quick answers, and usually 3 to 5 questions that we'll ask each person that we have on, just to kind of get some. I'm trying to pull data from how people that are elevating their lives and are elevating other people and what they're doing. So we have like a data record, if you will. I'm very protocol driven with my background and everything, and that science stuff is very interesting to me. So it's kind of that concept, some little research kind of going on behind the scenes. So basically, the question was how do you elevate others? Which clearly you saw something happening in your hypnosis stuff that you were able to elevate other business people. But are you able to share, like you said, you had a client, and of course, not having, I'm big on HIPAA, but I don't know if HIPAA still applies to hypnotherapy, but any type of just a small, quick, impactful story that after you coached them or you did hypnotherapy with them, that what they did and what they accomplished. I think that our listeners would love to hear like a real world story about that.
Sifting through the files. So
go to your subconscious mind, but no.
I have to keep client confidentiality, but I'm just thinking like, oh, he's going to know that this is him if he listens to this, but he won't mind.
And if that's the case,
so
if you have some, and just the fact that you have some, that's one thing. But
so this is one of my first clients. When I first started to see them, they were very, very introverted, unsure of themselves, knew clearly what they wanted to be and who they wanted to be, but didn't really know how to get there. They were younger. And I've seen them now for about 2 years. And it was fun because actually the other month I got to pull them aside kind of and be like, do you realize how far you've come, what you've done? And in that period of time, I have seen them completely change the way they think of the world around them and what they're capable of. And about 6 months ago, this person went from not being sure, like, where they were going in the computer field to recently getting hired at a 6-figure job with, I will say, a very major software company. I cannot say who.
Of course.
And it fascinated me to see this person go from somebody so scared and somebody so unsure of where they were going to somebody so confident and so positive that they didn't apply for that job. This company sought them out.
They just got it
and asked them to come work for them. And it was all about who he put out there, who he felt that he was. And if client confidentiality wasn't a thing, I could talk for hours about the amazing things I have seen my clients go through. I've seen them grow past. And that's most of why I love this job, because even in EMS, I didn't feel like I was helping.
So you're still helping people,
yeah, because we never knew the outcomes. We keep people together.
And that's a big part of it. That's one thing that's changed. Yeah, that's one thing that's changed in our department is that we have a little button in our chart, follow up, and we have 3 people that are awesome. Liaisons that work for us that actually talk get to the hospitals that know how to get the information.
That is really
so if there's
cool.
something like this is puzzling, follow up, or there's times like
wonder what happened to that little old lady. Yeah, awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's something that's inside of our software. Yeah.
That's important, I think,
All right. Well,
the mental health of responders, I think.
Oh yeah, it is. And it helps. There's some closure there, like
Yeah.
that's the difference between, I worked at a hospital too for many, many years. And a lot of times I got closure because I saw people walk out, I got to treat them in the ER and then up in the ICU on a different day and then see them on the ventilators for weeks. And next thing you know, I see them going to rehab and then I've got them as a patient over in the rehab center, and next thing you know, they're walking out with their family. And I've even visited a couple of people that I used to work on, and of course they allowed me, like, hey, I want to come see you sometime in a couple of weeks, just let's go have a coffee or something. And you get close to these people sometimes when they're weeks and weeks and months in your unit. And I've done that before, and there was so much closure with that, and it really helped reiterate the whole, what I'm doing when I'm in the hospital. But EMS isn't like that. We are getting better at it. Like I said, there's a button, and then we had a survivor a couple weeks ago from a cardiac arrest that we celebrated, and they came in and we had cake and ice cream, and that was helpful. That gives, that helps overtake the bad stuff we see and the times that we can't help the patient.
And we'll call this free career advice for your audience. One of the things I emphasize to everyone that I work with is that, and this is easy to forget in today's society, and why it's so important for me to remind people, everything is a human relationship. You are not a disconnected corporate drone dealing with a faceless individual. In EMS, you're a human being working with another human being, and you are going to have all of those emotions involved. Like, you are going to feel love, pain, hate, all of these things. And we tell ourselves, oh, I can't do that, I'm a professional. No, you're a damn human being. And at the same time, that's also the reason that you need to look for help, because you are not a robot. You saw some things, and if those things hurt you, and if those things haunt you, find help, because everything is relationship. From your interactions with your wife or children to the cashier. Right. That is all a human relationship. And when we forget that, it's kind of at our own peril. And if you remember that, it makes things easier.
Right. Yeah, it sure does. Well, let's go ahead and wrap. I had more questions, but like I said, we could talk for hours about a lot of different things. So let's just do this as a nice little introduction to J. Robert Parker and his book, All in Your Head. I've read through some of it. I had a couple of questions about chapter 3, but we'll get to that next time. But it was just one of those things where, you and I had our introductory call, and I was like, man, our listeners really need to hear this guy, and then I didn't even know about the coaching. So that's huge. So it all worked out for a purpose, right? Excellent. So, Elevate Podcast, we're here to elevate your world, elevate your mind with Jay Parker here, with J. Robert Parker. Elevate your mind so you can get clear of those things that may be holding you back, so you can elevate or level up. And I just want to thank you once again, just real quick. Where can they get your book and your website again? I'll also have it in the show notes, but go ahead and let us know that, and then we'll wrap things up.
All through my website. My website is www.twinravens.org. You can also find me on all the normal social media outlets. Look for Twin Ravens Solutions, and if for some reason you can't find me, look for Twin Ravens Hypnotherapy. It might be a profile that I forgot about.
It may still be stuck into that.
It still might be there. I still find them every now and again.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. And whatever questions you may have, if you want to buy the book, if you have questions about the book, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And once again, don't hesitate to, if someone's listening to this podcast and you think you have someone in your life that needs to hear this, go ahead and please share it with them. Of course, and we want you to come back every week and listen to what we bring you. We've got a lot of exciting guests coming up. I've been on phone calls and introductory calls all week. We've got a lot of things lined up, all leading up to a really special one that we're going to have in November. So just once again, subscribe, like, share, tell your friends, and once again, just remember to always to elevate and to be positive about your life, and reach for those people that can help you and do it faster. So thank you very much, everybody. And Jay, once again, take care, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Bye, guys.